Who's the most legitimate Hollywood tough guy in your opinion? You accept it, of course.
When you say tough guy, do you mean martial artist or just tough guy?
I mean, Stephen, for real. If he was on the street and there was a situation, you wanted this Hollywood guy by your side because he could defend himself. It's that hard to think of a legit one?
Can you think of one?
You do not need to be told on who this guy is. You know that voice, you know that physique, you know that donut-shaped goatee. You could be in another country and you would still smell his body odor.
What? Does that bother you?
Steven Seagal is a man that needs no introduction, as he's the go-to whenever YouTubers are in desperate need to pay their rent. And for good reason. What is there to say that hasn't been said about him? The man's done about almost everything and manages to fucking suck at all of them. Given this fucking pig's track record of being a con artist and lying to himself on the daily, despite the many things that he professes to the public, the man sings like he's choking on food.
That you gon' have to see. I got $700, baby. Ain't you gonna make me?
I refuse to call this shit acting.
A fucked up, kind of bizarre combination of monkey shit. I feel like I'm talking to a retarded child. That was the safe place to put my motherfucking money.
Where the hell do we draw the line between martial arts and bitch slapping your enemies? And don't even bother to figure out his past, because whenever asked about it, the guy had created so many different headcanons for his own backstory and career, he actually started to believe in all of them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not white, but...
Is it true that also you have a grandmother in your lineage that is Mongolian?
They look like Russian Mongols, but I don't know what they are, but they're something Asian.
For example, his heritage is all over the place. Over the many interviews he has done, he has been digging into every limb and pit within his spaghetti family tree to come off as the coolest motherfucker to ever comb the fucking earth. Trying to remind everyone that very notion time and time again. With that, what he says is that he's part American Indian, part Italian, part French, part Irish, part Mohawk, part Jewish, part Russian, part Asian, part Mongolian, part Michigan, part Cherokee, presumably because he weighs as much as one. Maybe some extras in there too, 1/2 Swedish, 1/4 Polish, 1/4 Winnebago, and sometimes, just sometimes, he can be part black whenever he feels like it.
What you mean, we white boy? Put this white boy back in the bucket.
Of course, this insecurity of always being the big cheese, and eating big cheese, comes with this lifestyle he conned his way into. A dream vision of him being the smartest fucker there is, and a fellow of many talents, living a luxurious lifestyle surrounded by hot chicks, strippers, and prostitutes, one of them being his wife.
Well, I don't know how they came, but they did come, and I accepted.
Rubbing shoulders with some big names, killing everyone he meets with absolute impunity, including said big names, and defying the laws of logic, gravity, and matter. With a resume like this, it will leave some to not only question, but also contest on how true they are.
He's there in Kansas, so I just met with the Dalai Lama, and he, in his wisdom, decided to make me a deity. You know, I feel a difference. I feel like an enlightenment, the sense of that I can do something now, and everything just seems to come into place for me spiritually and in my career, and I feel like it's certain things now that never made sense to me make sense to me on a universal level. And his assistant comes up to him and says, "Hey Steven, your ex-wife called, you can't bring the kids over this weekend." "You tell that fucking cunt, if she doesn't get those kids over here, I'll break her fucking neck."
He has been known for having some rough interactions with other action stars, from Schwarzenegger to Van Damme, even claiming that he met Bruce Lee and duked it out with him. And later on, he went to fight real dragons off the coast of Indochina, utilizing some of that weird magic shit from Big Trouble in Little China, only for him to realize that he was partaking in a Dungeons & Dragons game, so he murders everyone there because D&D sucks ass.
I'm gonna take you to the bank, Senator Trent. To the blood bank.
Let's get this out of the way. In an interview on The Voice Versus, Steven Seagal talks about how he knows Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee's son, and how he was able to help when Brandon was killed in a shooting accident, at one point promising to find his killer, utilizing for what was at the time a tragedy and twisting it about for the sake of some cool guy points.
You think that he's dead, but the guy shot a blank gun at him. How could he be dead? He's dying. He's severely hurt, maybe dead. And I said, you will find a projectile in him. You'll find a bullet in him. And they said, that can't be. You're crazy. And I said, you will find a bullet in him. And they called me in the morning. They said, you're amazing. And I said, why? And they said, there was a bullet in him. And I can go through the whole story on what really happened, which most people don't know, but...
And even thinking about it, it doesn't make much sense. Why would anyone within the heated moment of someone getting shot consider to phone up Steven Seagal? Smutty Steve, if you will. Not an ambulance, mind you. Not any form of emergency profession, but some fucking cowboy who was starting to get his feet wet in the shallow end.
Do you go watch the other guys? What do you think of Jeff Speakman or Van Damme? Do you know Van Damme?
No.
You've heard of him.
Whenever he's not bigging himself up, he's sometimes pushing his competition down, and his methods are some of the most embarrassing and hilarious that it actually complements his running, and all you need is a maid dress and some cat ears to complete the picture.
I think that that's a matter of opinion, that he was a champion anywhere.
The story goes that at one of Sylvester Stallone's parties, Van Damme challenged Seagal to a fight for having a mouth bigger than his own muscles, but Seagal dipped out and ran into the sunset. Honestly, I don't know why. It seems like a reasonable challenge. Van Damme knows kickboxing and full-body karate. Seagal knows karate, kung fu, taekwondo, jiu-jitsu, and epileptic seizures, because they are big and intimidating words to him.
Jean-Claude Van Damme. Is that true he got in a fight with you?
No. It'd be like me squashing an ant. Come on.
You, Larry?
Oh, he said he did like a spinning double twist kick or some shit.
It's
like one in front of his...
If he sees me, he runs.
Well, he said that he whooped some Aikido ass or something. I don't know.
Come on.
Afterwards, he claimed that he was assaulted by Van Damme, which simply didn't happen.
Thoughts on Jean-Claude Van Damme?
Can I laugh at your face?
Can I laugh in your face?
Is that still not enough? How about that time when he worked as a bodyguard and escorted the Shah of Iran during the revolution? Do you really need me to say anything else to add on to that?
That's syphilis.
The guy has a thing when it comes to dictators and corruption. Look no further when he was granted Russian citizenship by Putin himself. He couldn't wait to let Steven Seagal become a Russian citizen. I mean, look at him. He looks ecstatic.
We don't have a political relationship. We really talk about, the martial arts and philosophy.
And from that point on, Seagal became his toe-sucking bitch, supporting him in whatever way he can, showing off his propaganda skills.
Я занимаюсь изучением этого конфликта, и я заметил, что там есть огромное количество ложных новостей в этом конфликте, более чем где-либо за всю мою жизнь. И я начал расследование и понял, что 98 примерно процентов репортажей, которые публикуются на Украине, делаются людьми, которые там никогда не были, вообще никогда.
Except that now he's not just making dog shit funny action movies. That's cool. You provided us tons of entertainment, but providing us Russian propaganda is not it. I'm sorry.
Even expressing his support for war during the invasion of Ukraine, the man was even considered to be a threat to national security.
You still fine?
Yes, I do.
You still dangerous?
How about that time he got lost in Belarus and Santa Claus over here gathered one of his little elves to give him food to survive the long trip home? I don't think it's controversial to say that to combine Steven Seagal with any woman is like combining a hungry wolf with a packed henhouse.
Schoolgirls.
There have been a couple claims of sexual assault made towards Seagal by two women, whom he previously worked with during the making of his shitty movies. When confronted with this during an interview, he just gets bored with it, goes full Hassan Piker, and he walks out of shot because he smelled a fucking cheeseburger or something.
Been very much caught up in all the allegations of sexual harassment. You had a rape allegation against you, and I wonder how you deal with all that.
Pretty much saying more words with that action than whatever noise comes through that goatee, but neither claims were intensely pursued due to a statute of limitations. But if you want to talk about normal assault, that's pretty much him being really dedicated to his intense method acting.
I stay up at night with a notepad and pen thinking, how can I kill somebody that people haven't seen before?
The man was out for blood the very moment he entered the silver screen, not letting any criminal, or even just a normal civilian, go unturned. In fact, his method acting is so good, he started to take it out on the staff and other actors. But don't take my word for it. Just listen to what John Leguizamo had to endure during the making of Executive Decision.
We were in rehearsals for Executive Decision, okay? I'm playing his master sergeant, and we come in for rehearsals, and he comes in, I'm in command. What I say is law. Anybody doesn't agree? And I was like, I started cracking up because he sounded like a retard, and he came up and he taekwondo'd my ass against the brick wall. Went, he's 6'5" and caught me off guard, knocked all the air at me. I was like, why? What I really want to say is how big and fat he is, how he runs like a girl, because he does.
Really, his method here is to do as less work as possible whilst trying to make himself look awesome, and everyone else look like a fucking chump, while at the same time being on airplane mode, sweating an entire ocean onto the floor, and even performing his slap fights while sitting down. Because Humpty Dumpty over here is afraid that he'll slip, break a couple ribs, suddenly die of heart disease, and that there will be no more movies to make, and no more morally corrupt leaders to leech on to. And if you were to dare question him, he would start throwing little hissy fits, and attempt to murder those who thought negative of him. Oh, where does this shit even stop? You might be unfortunate enough to catch this guy on SNL, where for one night only, Steven Seagal was a host to one of the most popular late-night comedy shows on TV, except the concept of comedy is completely alien to him, and the means to poke fun at oneself as a means of self-awareness, yeah, he ain't doing that.
And it hangs well.
So essentially what you got were tasteless jokes, all praised aimed towards Seagal, and him pretty much being a fat cunt on set.
This is what happens when you pollute the planet.
Did Ed Heim write this shit? He was that bad that he got banned from SNL afterwards, and the audience and staff resorting to the suicide hotlines for the next few days. I would say the only time Steven Seagal was funny is when other people are making fun of him.
He kept saying, I've never seen your show. I don't know what you do here.
That, like, why did Lauren allow that, the producer of Saturday Night Live, why did he allow this guy to hijack the show and take over for 8 minutes? The show is bigger than Steven Seagal. He didn't need Steven Seagal.
Yeah, but
you know what I mean?
By the time you get to Wednesday, what are you going to do? But it would be funny if he booted him on a Thursday and just did the show without him.
But whenever he's not on screen, sometimes he likes to branch out into various hobbies, such as him promoting products of a questionable nature. Many people tend to forget that this man once had his own energy drink called Lightning Bolt. And since the idea of the electric chair is fading into obscurity, I guess we have to make do.
Hey there, we want to tell you about Steven Seagal's new energy drink. It's called Lightning Bolt. It's 100% natural and it tastes just great. In fact, it's so good, he likes swimming in it.
This can of questionable liquids was supposed to be a catalyst for more nutritional, natural energy drinks. Whilst I haven't really tried the drink and they discontinued it a while back, I have at least tried a handful of prime flavors, so I am at least comfortable in guessing that Lightning Bolt wasn't that healthy, tasty, or even good. A big name plus an energy drink doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be good.
How's it going, baby?
Boss, I've got another 2,000 cans to go to fill this pool.
Man, I feel so sorry for you, but you know what? I really wanted to swim in Steven Seagal's Lightning Bolt with you.
Yeah, but you know I love doing it, because I love you.
From those who have tried it, I think there would be some agreement to that. Others were never born with taste buds and think that Budweiser is somehow a beer.
Lightning Bolt is a unique energy drink. It's the first of its kind. With 100% pure juice blends and is the only energy drink to contain Tibetan goji berries and Asian cordyceps. And it hits the spot every time.
Never mind the drink, you can just buy this for the overall aesthetic of it. With all the Asian fruits and spices it says on the can, or at least what's written in crayon, you're supposed to be enlightened by this drink. You're supposed to feel healthy and zen-like. To feel what it's like to be a lightning bolt, from what I've heard is very painful, and to help immerse you into Asian culture. Which culture specifically? They don't say, it's like a smorgasbord of different things that sound profound.
Lightning Bolt comes in 2 delicious flavors, Asian experience, and cherry charge. So why not give your taste buds a real thrill?
But the closest thing to Asian this drink transported anyone to was a sweatshop in San Francisco's Chinatown. And with packaging like that, a commercial like this, and a taste one would assume to be similar to rotten cleaner fluid, it sure does complement that Southeast Asian knockoff cheapness, whether it was intentional or otherwise.
It's good to be the king, isn't it? And guess what? This could happen to you if you drank lightning bolt.
And I could go on, from when he was paid to do a crypto scam but backed out, to being a guru for posse volunteers within the police department, to getting in trouble with the mob. It is just too much to take in every single detail. Usually this is where I round things up and call it a fucking day, but I didn't want to just end off there. After all, this is Steven Seagal we're talking about here. The fat seagull, the human buoy, the man who dares not walk in fear of causing an earthquake, the master of sleazy sex and shooter movies. Such titles like Shadow Man, A Good Man, A Dangerous Man, The Glimmer Man, Half Past Dead, Contract to Kill, Born to Raise Hell, End of a Gun, Absolution. Look, this one has 4 Michelin stars.
Shit, I want to know why.
And the list goes on. But I didn't want to just tackle a random Seagal movie. I wanted to seek the worst from his catalog of bad movies. Given all the slop that he's put out in the past 30 years, it was kinda hard to pick and choose which one to rip apart. But then I was told by a friend to check out something called On Deadly Ground.
Steven Seagal is on deadly ground.
You're an oil man.
But I put out the fires.
In terms of film, this is the only one Steven Seagal has ever directed, and it shows. He even got a Razzie for it. Some people point their finger towards this one being the worst of the worst. Now, is that true? I'm not sure, but it has the criteria of what makes a Steven Seagal film. Senseless murder, lots of explosions, stupid decisions by our main characters, one-note villains, a token hot girl, a token stripper, Seagal being horny, Seagal beating up and throwing random people, supporting cast members that are way more beloved than our protagonist, preachy dialogue, a plot that is so twisted and confused that it's borderline unrecognizable, and Seagal being praised for committing numerous murders and walking away from any situation without any injury or consequence. In fact, you could watch this very movie and never bother with the rest, because it sums up Seagal's tropes whenever he's given any kind of credit. Then again, you can say that about any Seagal movie, but I digress. For some of us who've never endured the logic-breaking stupidity of a Seagal movie, I will need you to sign this form here so I can't be held responsible for any injury you get during this. While I'm someone who has grown up with YouTube poops and Gmod videos, this will be more mind-numbing and frustrating than whatever brain cancer you might consume. Hopefully by the end of it, you'll come out as some kind of critical thinker, or as a more creative person, or to at least learn to never attempt this kind of shit. Or you're just one of those people who try to be funny on Discord or Instagram or whatever cesspit you're trying to suck up to and resort to watching Moist Critical, Mutahar, or something more mind-numbingly retarded. Some will turn away from this as a means to keep their palate clean, not wanting to give this man any more attention or to be subjected to the ultimate mediocrity. But as of now, for those with big hearts and slightly bigger brain cells, this is a whiskey-fueled, sardonic review of
On Deadly Ground.
The movie begins in Alaska, with an oil rig burning down to the ground, and the fire crew acting like a bunch of insects, not really knowing what they're doing. In fact, they're so good at pretending to do their job, they had to rope in some extra help to actually take care of the issue. And because the ones with all the knowledge and skills are busy doing better things with their lives, they had to phone in this fat ass to save them. And would you all please give a warm welcome to Mr. Steven Seagal! Round of applause really not necessary. So how about Steven Seagal as a quote-unquote actor? Well, apart from the fact that 95% of the time the man only has one expression, he's an ego-driven pussy with zero social skills, little to no understanding about films, let alone directing, and having a mental capacity of a fucking rock, and a head like a fucking tic-tac. Here he plays a firefighter turned sociopath, Forrest Taft. But to make it easier, I'll just call him by what he really is, Steven Seagal. Whatever character Steven Seagal plays, he will always be playing himself, all across the movies he's in. The man at this point embraced his typecasting.
$350,000? I'd fuck anything once!
Here he meets up with an old prospector.
And all because your goddamn pal Jennings lousy? Your goddamn pal Jennings lousy what?
And you get jump scared by Michael Caine. Now, I like Michael Caine. It's great to see him in any movie he's in. And frankly, I don't understand what circumstances led to him saying yes to this. Maybe rent was a little high. But I think when he joined, he was expecting to work with someone better. I mean, look at it. It's gone so rough that he dyed his hair black. He's about a nanogram away from blasting Alice in Chains on full volume.
You've been getting sloppy lately, hasn't he? Certainly has, Mr. Jennings.
Anyways, Steven Seagal decides to save the day by going into a burning oil rig with no safety gear and a fucking metal panel, thinking that it could get him a role in Braveheart, before smoking a joint and pressing a button. The day is saved, and Seagal somehow didn't suffer any kind of third-degree burns or shrapnel being lodged into his back. In the helicopter ride to God knows where, they play a game of 20 questions, while Michael Caine is already contemplating the thought of jumping out of the helicopter. All of a sudden, we're now at a bar, but no strippers or teenage girls to fondle, so Seagal is drinking extra hard this time round. While there, some farmer bullies a homeless dude, and Steven decides to walk around him and sit somewhere else. Whilst there, the prospector comes up, whispers in something that vaguely resembles a language, and he fucks off. But it's getting late and Steven has yet to fulfill his quota of random violence. Not knowing how to recover from those insults from earlier, he takes his anger out on everyone else besides Farmer Brown. Even roping in this random old man for shits and giggles. Then they commit to a playground game and Steven takes this hippie back to the dumping grounds. Meanwhile, Michael Caine's character has taken notes from T. Martin and is now issuing a public apology to help fix his bad reputation, alongside some animals.
They come to feed off the tundra grasses and to have their children. You see, we at Aegis Oil believe in protecting our natural treasures. We believe in keeping them safe for future generations to enjoy. After all, the Earth is our home too. Who cares? We do. At Aegis Oil. Cut! Fuck, these animals stink. Bring me a washcloth.
Sure, this might look like I'm already breezing through the plot and skipping a lot of things. Don't worry about it, I'll get to the plot. I'm just waiting for the right moment to give a shit. Sticking with the theme of elder abuse, Michael Caine sends out some of his goons to help torment this prospector from earlier.
You tell Jennings, I rolled over for you bastards for long enough.
It's no problem. They only sent out the smartest to help reason with him.
There is no I in team. It is T-E-A-M.
But that didn't work out, so they go full Eric Andre. Clearly taking apology lessons from T. Martin didn't go as planned, and now the lobby is full of the nation's best reporters and random journalists.
We want to talk about the increased rates of skin cancer.
They even got some feminists here too.
Women who fail to ovulate.
How enlightening. But the shitstorm doesn't end, as now it's time for some confrontation between the already obvious villain and the slow Seagal.
I gotta say, I'm a little ashamed of you.
He's been feeling like that for a long while, but at least he has a respectable career.
I'd just like to ask you something. How much is enough? How much money is enough?
Clearly not enough to get a better writer and director behind the camera, but clearly not enough to get you out of this fucking movie. But there's no time to be bitter, he's got to work for the villain again.
I know we've had our disagreements, but can you do this one last thing for me?
This time in a more desolate location where no one can hear him scream. It turns out Steven Seagal is fired, as they already have a designated button pusher with them. And again is somehow not dead or injured. But would luck have it, a convoy of natives were just passing by, presumably because the old man saw a bird or something. But lo and behold, they did not find a bird, but a wild boar. So they take him back to their settlement, composed of hot chicks and old people, and start stuffing him with food. Meanwhile, back with Caine, he tries to explain to the audience that all this shit blowing up was a product of industrial sabotage, i.e. the pyrotechnics guy going mad with gunpowder.
Was the result of sabotage.
But you're talking about internal sabotage by people in your own company. Is this how you run Aegis Oil?
Why yes, how did you know? Back with Seagal, he wakes up and he's greeted to the sight of an ancient troll who's just as confused as Seagal is. Either that or he didn't get much sleep himself, alongside his bankable granddaughter, whose role here is to also act as Google Translate.
He says it was nothing. He thought you were a bear.
I was leaning towards a wild boar, but a bear works too.
You tell him I'm a mouse, hiding from the hawks in the house of a raven.
Can you please try something a little shorter and simpler? Now roll over, Burger Boy, it's time for your enema. After some weird folk medicine shit, he decides to leave this joint via a dog sled, and since Steven Seagal believes that he's Snow White, and can commandeer nature and animals to do his bidding, he tries flirting with a pack of dogs, sparking what is possibly one of the best things in this piece of shit movie.
Whoa! Hey! These dogs off of me! Fucking dogs, get off of me! Whoa!
This of course wakes up the entire neighborhood, and now he has to confess his sins.
I'm in trouble, people are after me, and if they come here, you guys are in a lot of danger.
After traveling over God's green earth, they pull to the side of the road to see if Seagal has the spirit of a bear inside of him.
I've seen a great spirit.
No, I'm sure it's just dysentery. So he passes out from a feather and tries to pull a Mortal Kombat move on Yogi Bear, but loses and drowns in a river. But now he comes to a fork in the road, and he has to make the ultimate choice. One path gets his dick wet, the other gets his dick soft. He's suddenly an environmentalist now, baptized in some fashion. But then the Alzheimer's patient was killed right away. He gives Seagal a baby toy, and this whole plot could be easily boiled down to, we hate oil barons, and we love the native Indians and the environment. But hey, fucking snowmobile, let's go to the Winter Olympics. They pay a visit to Grandpa's house, but big fucking shocker, he's not there. They do find his tax returns though, and go somewhere else to use some fucking stranger's computer because they got solitaire and pinball. And because the one Grandpa has goes as far back as the Cold War, and that shit ended yesterday.
Finance Aegis 1 and the rest of his dog shit empire.
Despite having enough evidence to turn someone's anus into a goatsy, Seagal is seeing red again, and needs to cure that itch with more violence. Meanwhile, the bad guys are talking about how they can't find any information on Seagal's character, despite having worked for them in the past, and Sergeant Hartman educates the audience on how much of a badass he is for this line delivery.
We are not dealing with the student here, we're dealing with the professor. Anytime the military has an operation that can't fail, they call this guy in to train the troops, okay? He's the kind of guy that would drink a gallon of gasoline so he could piss in your campfire. You could drop this guy off at the Arctic Circle wearing a pair of bikini underwear without his toothbrush, and tomorrow afternoon he's going to show up at your poolside with $1 million smile and a fistful of pesos. This guy's a professional, you got me?
Some traps are set, a crack shack blows up, some goons get killed by the traps, a cliffside is blown up. Is this man going after Home Alone now?
This guy's good.
After a series of Dadaist nightmares, we're finally at the rig, and inside Indiana Seagal's mindset, he's contemplating on pursuing the careers of industrial sabotage and unleashing his inner Jason Voorhees while Doom music plays in the background. I guess they're eco-terrorists now because the granddaughter is being taught to plant explosives all over the place. At the LAN party, this guy in glasses is jumping ship before the fucking climax.
This whole place is gonna blow. If you want to go down with your ship, that's fine. But I am not that stupid.
Oh, yes, you are.
I don't know, you were pretty stupid enough to say yes to this movie, you fucking sucker! After getting destroyed by Kane, the spec sheet nerd tries to flee via helicopter, only for him to be destroyed by Seagal and be killed by a continuity error. Then this bitch tries to flee, infected with Steven Seagal's trademark pussy running, fearing that she might suffer a fate akin to that on Final Destination. And because Seagal loves the Alaskan environment, he's going to blow up an oil rig just to show his appreciation. At this point, Michael Caine is putting his anger out on the cast for agreeing to this shit.
And that'll be enough for me to keep my leases.
Right.
Without any help from you pricks.
And later turning to the production crew and director, with the biggest roast of the century.
You're a bunch of gutless pricks!
But Steven Seagal comes up, and I just wanted Kane over here to go full Jack Carter and defeat Seagal. That would have been something we all wanted. But no, we just get this fit of irony from Seagal's filthy breath.
What does one say to a man with no conscience?
I'm convinced that Michael Caine actually died here and they just kept filming.
I'm leaving.
You should have done that from the beginning, because now Seagal is going to fucking kill you for hiding the fact that you're old. That black hair dye ain't fooling anyone. As the place blows up, Steven and his new wife skip their way through the collapsing rig. She probably just realized who she's sharing a bed with, but Steven is fucking livid throughout all of this. Living La Vida Loca, I guess. And after his rage-fueled genocide and causing enough environmental damage to rival the Exxon Valdez, huffing those chemicals from earlier really did something to him, because now he's doing some sanctimonious preaching against the media, and for a clean planet. And how cool of a guy he is! Everyone's sucking up his fat chode, because he can't bend his back to do that, in a movie where a lot of random assault, murder, and damage is done to the ecosystem within a week, starring a man who emits more carbon monoxide than a fucking chimney, preaching to something that can already be classified as word of mouth, so this shit's not only tacky, but extremely arbitrary. Maybe Ed Hine did write this shit.
Our people to be strong again.
This is a byproduct of what happens when you give an amateur action star the offer to direct 90 minutes of pure slop, whilst also not having a clue on what it should be. Is it a comedy, an action flick, a porno? Look, I love mindless sex, violence, and destruction as much as the next motherfucker. I mean, this era of movies was full of that, and it's a guilty pleasure for me. But this whole thing feels like apathy mixed in with a very bad parody. It represents everything that you would expect from a Seagal flick, which could be boiled down to him playing trope bingo with himself. This is composed of Ed Wood's unrealized fever dreams mixed in with an exploitation script that they found in some waste bin, sprinkled with topical subjects, and made to compromise someone the size of a fucking elephant. I would try my damnedest to say more on this movie, but at this point I stopped caring, and I forgot everything about it. And instead I watched Darkman, which is a good movie you should actually see. My name is Daemosthenes, or just call me Deimos.